Welcome back to Channel Listening Fans. Happy Saturday to all of you out there. So, what do I have today? Well, today is going to be round two. Round two with the Sierra 2s. So in last week's episode, I've covered off on the Ascend Acoustics Sierra 1, their base level monitor speaker. And what a fantastic speaker it is. So I kind of gushed over it a bit for several different reasons. One, just its performance out of the box. Two, it's still available today as a direct-to-consumer model. And three, these can be delivered to your doorstep for $760. A bamboo cabinet, very, very dense, a C's tweeter, and a proprietary 5 1/4 mid-range driver. It really, for its price point, absolutely wowed me. Loved my time with them, and it made me go basically really search deeper within the Ascend line, look up more of their information, and I had to get my hands on the next level up, which is the Sierra 2s. And of course, with this particular speaker, you have a doubling of the price points, and that made me really curious because these cabinets are identical cabinets. You have the same 14 1/4 inch height, the same 7 1/2 inch width, and the 10 1/2 inch depth. So they are the same cabinets, albeit this lovely secondhand pair that I picked up from Berkeley, California is the Satin Espresso, and it's just this really, really nice, deep, dark brown. Had a really hard time getting some good photos of it for the thumbnail just because it really absorbs the light, but it is a nice deep brown finish. So with that, having talked about how much I like the Sierra 1s, why the Sierra 2s, and why did Mr. Fabricant go out of his way to make a Sierra 2 when you already have such an amazing under $1,000 bookshelf speaker? So in the Ascend line, they make a Sierra Tower, and at some point with the upgrading of the Sierra Tower, they allowed for basically it's, I believe it's a 720 70 millimeter, 20 millimeter wide raw tweeter that is a $700+ upgrade to the Sierra Towers. Once they did that, and the fan base of Ascend Acoustics started to really talk and clamor for Mr. David Fabricant to do the same thing with their bookshelf line, the Sierra line, and to squeeze a raw tweeter into this particular speaker, or ribbon tweeter as they're known for. Well, in order to do that, you have to change a lot about the speaker because you can't just take out the fabric dome tweeter and throw in a ribbon tweeter. Now, these ribbon tweeters, particularly these RAWs, they are an aluminum, it's an aluminum material, extremely thin, and according to their own specifications, the moving mass of this particular unit is supposed to be less than, or it's 1/100th of a gram of moving mass. So you have a very fast tweeter. And when you put a very fast tweeter that doesn't like to go as low, there's a lot you're going to have to change up with the crossover, and they don't like to go below 3K, usually around 3.3 or 3300K. And so that really changes up the kind of driver selection that you have for your mid and your bass. And that throws some curveballs at the designer to where you can no longer use this lovely little unit that they have here, this 5 1/4 polydome. Well, they have a great relationship with Seas of Norway, and Mr. Fabricant went to Seas and said, okay, we've got this super fast tweeter. Now we need a super strong and super fast mid-range woofer driver that can handle crossing over at a higher point, yet still has good self-dampening and stiffness, and doesn't lose that lovely bass signature, that punchiness of the Sierra 1 line. And really, again, for the dollar quotient here of how much bass can come out of this speaker, super impressive. And you don't want to lose that with throwing in these much more expensive drivers. So C's, they happen to be working on this new curve. They call it their curve cone, and it's more surface area within the same 6-inch slot. This particular woofer, it's a woven poly, so it's still a polyurethane type material, but it's more of a woven in design, and it's a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter, and there's just a lot more that they did to really up the game on this particular driver. So instead of the aluminum cast basket, you have a magnesium cast basket. It's still a vented pull design, and as I took this driver out and made some pictures or a short video for you guys, even the connection points are gold plated. I can't remember the last time I've actually seen any of the speakers that I've had where the connectors, the internal connectors were gold plated. That really kind of threw me for a loop. I just that extra additional level of detail, that was pretty cool to see that. So now you have your faster driver, and you have your faster tweeter. You're still getting a good bass performance. They had to add a little bit more to the crossover, so the crossover's a little bit longer, a couple more coils in there, a couple more resistors from what I could tell in the design of this speaker. So overall package is it plays in their in-room response is 41 hertz to now it's extended from 22 to 27K. So that's 22, this is 27K. However, you do, per their specs, lose 2 dB on the bottom end with this particular unit. So that, you know, that in itself lends to, well, you just doubled the price, but on paper, you've lost 2 dB of the bottom end. What does that do to the overall sound? Now, before I get to that, one of my commenters and watchers last week brought to my attention and asked me if I had seen the Audio Science Review markup on the Luna version. And the Luna is the baby brother. It's only the 4-inch driver, and really I'm not interested in that small of a speaker. I tend to like bigger speakers. These are actually the smallest of speakers I've ever tested, but because of their value quotient and how well they perform, I've had no problems with spending my own money to get these and test them. So having said that, Audio Science Review, I said no, I didn't look at that, but I did pay a lot of close attention to Amir's write-up on the Sierra 2s. For you Audio Science Review guys who are frequency response first, specifications first, before you make any purchase, there are a few things I have to say. When you take apart that review, and Amir basically goes on with all the different frequency charts, goes on to say that he expected a better, flatter frequency curve from this particular speaker, and because only paying attention to what his $100,000+ Kipple near-field scanner is telling him, he made a declarative statement that, oh, wow, look at the impedance in the ohm dip. You're probably going to need a lot of power to drive these bookshelf speakers to extract performance from them. That's Mark 1, a big one I'll get to in a second. The other more irresponsible piece that I will say to that is that at the end of all that, with all those charts, all those plot graphs, all those frequencies, he did not take a pair of speakers and set them up in a proper 2-channel rig to let his ears tell him, okay, I've got all these charts, I've got all these frequencies. How does this speaker actually perform in my room with my 2-channel rig? And he did not do that, folks. He basically took just one speaker, hooked up one speaker, walked around it, played some of his reference music, and said, oh, wow, it does play louder than I would expect, and it plays cleaner than I expect. Part 2. Because of that, I decided to spend an entire week with these speakers, using just my Unison Research Unico P hybrid integrated amplifier that I reviewed 2 weeks ago. It maxes out at 50 watts. And I was able to comfortably drive these speakers past 85 dB up to 90 dB clips. And I still had 50% left on the volume dial of my 50 watt integrated amplifier. So much for your specs in your $100,000 Kipple machine. I just want to make that really clear. If you don't listen to it and you just look at the charts, I have 2 products in my house or my apartment that most of you specification first people would probably ignore, and they've been 2 of the bigger surprises of my audiophile journey, in that if I judged them purely on specs, I too probably would have glossed them over and said, that's not for me, that just doesn't have the range, doesn't have the power, doesn't have this, doesn't have that. So that's an important lesson for a lot of folks out there who are new to this journey. Specs is just a direction to point you in. It is not the entire picture. Now, having said all that and getting that off of my chest, listening to these speakers, and here's one of my little toys that I use. So when I'm just kicking back and I'm doing my critical listening with all of the different songs that I use, I have my DB app on my phone hooked up to my nice little microphone here, and I keep everything tuned, all the speakers I listen to where everything would pretty much clip at around 85 dB. If anything goes above that, I readjust everything so that the clips are at 85 dB. Now, one interesting aspect to the fact that the price of the drivers in here are more than double what they are in the Sierra 1. The change or the alteration to the listening, this is how I can summarize it. So some differences are subtle and some are not subtle at all. The subtle differences are definitely going to be in the bass quality. So in the bass department, where this will go down to 39 plus minus 3 dB, you can get down to 37 hertz, 36, where it's really rolling off. And I'll show you with my little video. In room, at 38 hertz with this speaker, it's very mellow and it's just barely there. It's really starting to roll off. And at 36 hertz in room, it's just a whisper of getting any kind of bass out of that speaker. So that's one thing, is there's definitely that roll off with this particular driver. And so you're missing that 1 to 2 dB of that bottom end that you do get with the Sierra. However, by doubling the value or the quality of the driver, what goes into the driver, here's the trade-off that I would make any particular day. Absolutely much more articulate. Not gobs more of articulation, but the bass detail, the range that what you're getting from this particular driver is another step up. And I would say with my listening habits, I'm willing to make that trade-off. Bass heads would not want to lose any dB whatsoever. For me, because I'm also a zoo head, that to me was a very good trade-off, to where there was more articulation in the bass, and bar none, the speed, the punchierness of the bass was there. Where it goes up 2 full notches is absolutely in that mid to tweeter range, the tweeter response. With these speakers, what I notice, and with my dB meter, is that I had made the claims that there was a bit of a fatigue factor after 80 dB with the Sierra 1s. So with extended listening, 3, 4, 5 songs in above 80 dB, I would have to lower it, and the comfort zone for me was probably 78 dB if I had to just, here's a mark on the dial, 78 dB, that's where I could comfortably listen to the Sierra 1s all day long. With the Sierra 2s, I was pushing it and pushing it and pushing it to where 82, 83 dB was very comfortable playback for an extended sessions, and that was very an impressive trade-off. So that's an important thing. You know, certain speakers, you get them in and they've got these hyper detailed drivers, super expensive. You have to set the speaker up in such a way where the micro adjustments count for everything. But there is absolutely can be a fatigue factor with those type of speakers. Now with this speaker, that was not an issue for me whatsoever. Had a lot of fun this past Sunday, and to prove that point with my wife and daughter is I threw on Amazon HD. They had a 90s dance tracks, and so I had a lot of fun with that. Threw that on, cranked these speakers up, and for hours upon hours these things just pumped into the apartment, and we had a lot of fun laughing at some of those old songs. Not to mention my daughter had new exposure to Daft Punk and decided to add a few more songs to her library based on that experience. So just a more playful speaker. And here's going to be a real important piece of distinction for that is I feel that these speakers shift 2 steps closer to what I love about my Zoo Dirty Weekends and being a rock capable speaker, just a rock out type of speaker, yet all the detail and the finesse is there. Ribbon tweeters are known for being airy. I would associate that with this speaker. It has an air to it. It lends extension to the sound stage, and it's just, there's an effortlessness to this particular speaker. Whereas by saying this is 2 notches closer to the Zoo sound I love, that's where the Sierra 1 comes in, and it steps 2 notches away from the Sierra 1, where the Sierra 1 is more methodical. And the other way that I could explain the Sierra 1 is it's an occasion speaker. You're going to plan out the music that you want to play, and it's almost like you're getting your schedule out. Oh yes, on Saturday night between 7 and 9:30, I am going to have an extended listening session with the Sierra 1s where I plan to play this particular music due to its more analytical nature. Those are the 2 personalities here. And at the end of the day, that's where you have to say, okay, $760 or delivered $1,500 as configured. You double $1,508 to have this speaker in this configuration if you were to order it brand new from Ascend Acoustics. Another point, again with the effortlessness and just really enjoying it. So one particular song that happens to be Amanda is one of her favorites is we really cranked up Regina Spektor's cover of My Guitar Gently Weeps, which was also the soundtrack song to Kubo. And in that, there's the Japanese guitar and the drums. And just what a really dynamic song. This speaker had no problem playing that. Probably, I think I went up to 90 dB with that song. And just the immediacy, the snap, the details. I'm impressed. I was absolutely, again, impressed by what comes out of this bamboo package. Another thing I have to say, well, I can't let it go. The doubling of the cost of the drivers in this speaker. You're talking about several $100s of drivers in this little bookshelf speaker at $1,500. If this speaker were sold by, you name another dozen companies, and particularly one I reviewed over a month ago, somehow this would have been a $3,500 speaker with this C's driver and that raw tweeter. 2-channel listening fans and viewers, you owe it to yourself to go look at Ascend Acoustics and what they've done here for the price point. There are boutique manufacturers out there who are still punching well above the dollars, still giving you incredible return on value. And may I add yet again, this is a speaker that was built in the USA and came from Gardena, California. So while these giant conglomerates are using they're flexing their costs across the pond, producing particular mass-produced products across the seas, you're not getting your money's worth with a lot of those products. Now, I am not going to be a popular guy for saying that, but I really respect a lot of the boutiques out there who still go by the sweat of their brow, the brain power, the mathematical equations, and really going out of the way to find that proper synergy to give you, the consumer, a terrific package at a terrific price. And for that, Mr. David Fabricant, I've rewarded you with my first direct purchase. I've put my money where my mouth is, and I ordered the level 3, which is the 2EX version that I should have by Monday of next week. And it'll be a couple of weeks of breaking those in, experiencing what those are, and reporting back to you guys. Really excited to get my hands on those. And I did the cherry cabinets this time. So without going my way to sound like a shill for Ascend Acoustics, I'm at speaker purchase number 37-ish, around there. And Ascend Acoustics is made my top 5 list of the biggest, best surprises of my 10-year audio journey so far. And again, I've added some new songs to the tracks that I'll put in the description for you guys. I'll have Ascend Acoustics, their direct link to the CR2s, in my description for you guys. All I can report on is what I experienced, all the different speakers that I've had, and that the pleasure, the absolute pleasure, where I say, yes, this $760 is absolutely worth it. But for those who are looking for even more finesse, more detail, speed, totem-like quality, totem acoustics-like quality from Canada, this is an amazing speaker that you should audition. So, that's about as much as I can say on that fact. I do appreciate you guys tuning in each week. Thank you so much. And next week, I have this little gem over here that doesn't get as much play as their 150 and their 300. This is the Deco Sky 125 model from Peachtree. And I'm going to be excited to use that with my Sierras and the Zoos and report back on what that kind of lower power Class D amp section sounds like for you guys. So without further ado, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I wish you a wonderful weekend. Thank you.